we move over to brain-computer interface technology for neurorehabilitation. So today I will give you some examples of what we are doing with stroke patients and people with multiple sclerosis. g.tec IMCity is located with the headquarters in Austria. I'm sitting in Schiedlberg. This is a very small village where we have about 1,000 people. It is very nice to work here and to program here and all this stuff. Then we have also an office in Graz. This is more in the south of Austria. This is where we are producing the hardware for our recoveriX systems. And then we are also treating patients, stroke patients and multiple sclerosis patients, for example, in Albany, New York, and also in Barcelona. So we are having recoveriX centers there, also in Schiedlberg, of course, and people are just coming there to get BCI treatment. Just in Schiedlberg, we did already more than 30,000 treatments in the past years. So we have many, many patients here. And then we have also offices in Vancouver, in Canada, in Hong Kong, in Sapporo, in Japan, and in Cali, in Colombia, where David and Maria started early this year. We are having also about 15 different research projects where we use brain-computer interface technology. And in recoveriX leg, for example, we will develop the brain-computer interface that can be used for neurorehabilitation of lower limbs. And this is also something that we are demonstrating, for example, during the recoveriX day. Now I show you a video that we just completed a few weeks ago. I hope you can hear the sound.
I did it!
She did it! Some say love is a winding road.
Actually, I interrupt here because the sound doesn't work for me. So I try to share again. Let's see. Let me know if you can hear.
Carves a man through the darkest night.
She did it!
Yeah!
Some say love takes a
She
heavy
did it!
load. Help someone make the burden light. Teaches you not to hold too tight.
The video very nicely shows that, of course, stroke and multiple sclerosis is not only affecting a patient, it's also affecting the whole family and all the friends. That's just another reason for trying to make the life of all of them better. And this is all going back to Gerd Pfurtscheller, who was the PhD supervisor a couple of years ago. And he came up with the event-related desynchronization principle, which is indicated here on the slide. So he figured out if a person is imagining a left-hand movement, then the right hemisphere is activated. And the red spot here is called ERD. And he just came out with the first paper quantifying the red spot, called event-related desynchronization. And if the person is doing a right-hand movement imagination, then we find the activation of over the left hemisphere. And the nice thing is that these spots are the same for every human being. And for that reason, we know exactly where we should place the electrodes to capture left-hand movement and right-hand movement. There's the International 1020 electrode system, which has a certain name for each electrode, and this is, for example, C3. This is the left hemisphere responsible for right-hand movement, and around C4, it's the right hemisphere responsible for left-hand movement. So when we place the electrodes there, then we can measure activation of left and right hand. If we would place the electrodes on the forehead or on the back, on the visual cortex, we wouldn't be able to decode hand movements. So it's super important that you put electrodes exactly over the brain regions where the activation is happening. And this is what we are doing nowadays with recoveriX. So we are putting 16 electrodes over the whole sensory motor cortex of a stroke patient. And then we have a computer monitor in front of the patient. And on the computer monitor, we have a little avatar that's giving an instruction for the patient. For example, imagine a right hand movement. Then the person does it, the brain-computer interface picks it up, and we can stimulate in real time the left hand so that the dorsiflexion is actually done. And this is randomized between left hand and right hand, or left foot and right hand, and each patient does 240 motor movement imagination in one therapy session, and patients are coming back for 25 sessions. Here you can see the physiotherapist sitting there with the computer, observing the treatment, and on the table you can also see the electrical stimulators. So we are doing here functional electrical stimulation of the muscles. And this is actually our first patient, the Danut, recorded many years ago. I'm just showing it for historical reasons. So these experiments were done in Iași, in Romania. And here you can actually see how the setup looked like 10 years ago. So at this time we used 64 channels. So we wanted to investigate where we need the EEG electrodes for doing it. And then on the computer screen you can see a little arrow pointing left or right. So this is now a right hand movement imagination. BCI picks it up, and then we stimulate the right hand to produce the dorsiflexion. This is not the left hand. This is actually the healthy hand. So we are activating both the paretic hand and also the healthy hand. So at this time we were recording with the G.tec, which can easily do 64 channels. This procedure was repeated for like 45 minutes. And here you can see one of the functional tests that we are doing with the patients. It's, for example, the 9-hole peg test. So in this case, you have to put little sticks into certain positions. With the left hand and also with the right hand, you're just measuring the time. And you can see the left hand is the healthy one. So the patient needs at the beginning 31 seconds and at the end 29 seconds. And this is also what we see all the time, that also the healthy side actually gets better. And much more interesting is, of course, the paretic side. You can see here the patient needed at the beginning a little bit more than 1 minute for doing the test, and at the end only 30 seconds. So this is like healthy hand movement. This is exactly what we want to achieve. So I showed you already the video, and here's an interview where she's reporting about. Please let me know if you can hear the sound. That's in a few seconds.
Savin, ați avut un accident acum ceva vreme. Cum s-a întâmplat? V-ați așteptat la așa ceva?
Nu. Am ieșit din baie cu ibricul, mân și am căzut și n-am mai știut nimic de mine când am ieșit din baie.
Am înțeles. Deci a căzut și ați
A
rămas
căzut
acolo.
ibricul întâi, eu am vrut să stau pe pat și am căzut.
Și ați căzut pur și simplu.
Și gata, atât.
După ce s-a întâmplat acest AVC, care era condiția dumneavoastră fizică? Cum vă
Moartă,
simțeați?
legumă, nu puteam să vorbesc. Eram conștientă, știam, nu puteam să vorbesc, nu puteam să mă mișc, nimic.
Deci pur și simplu doar vedeați, gândeați și atât.
Da, vedeam și gândeam. Nu puteam să zic.
Iar mișcările?
Nu.
Nu vă puteați mișca deloc.
Nu.
Care a fost partea cea mai afectată? Partea dreaptă, am înțeles. Da. Ok. După un timp ați început probabil să și mergeți, să mișcați și mâna stângă.
După 10 zile.
După 10 zile ați început să vă mișcați totuși, am înțeles.
Un pic, câte un pic.
Doar câte un pic. Dar mâna stângă,
nu.
Mâna dreaptă.
Mâna dreaptă, nu.
Deci mâna dreaptă nu puteți mișca la momentul respectiv.
Mâna dreaptă nu.
Înainte să începeți să lucrați cu sistemul recoveriX, știați ceva despre reabilitarea cu Brain-Computer Interface?
Nu știam, dar vroiam.
Nu
Totuși când a zis domn doctor și dumneavoastră, când a zis, dacă-s de acord, am zis, da, vreau. Eram... Nu.
Am înțeles. Cum a fost experiența dumneavoastră cu recoveriX?
Cum să zic, Eram mulțumită. De-abia așteptam să mai fac și mâine și poi mâine când mă programați.
Vedeați câte un progres de la o zi la alta?
Pentru că îmi puneam așa mâna pe bețșoare, pe... Adică vedeam ceva. Și de-abia așteptam și mâine și poi mâine.
Vedeați câte un progres de la o zi la alta?
Da.
Câte sesiuni ați efectuat cu recoveriX?
24.
24. Am înțeles. Cât de mult s-au îmbunătățit funcțiile motorii ale mâinii dumneavoastră? Poate și puteți arăta cum vă
Pentru mine, parcă ar fi 100%. Eu, când mă culcam, nu puteam, trebuie să o mut. Trebuie să mut mâna cu ea altă, cu stânga. Dar
acum vă simțiți foarte bine, o puteți mișca?
Da, aceleași, cum e asta e și asta.
Am înțeles.
Decât mi-e frig așa, o simt, o rece, da.
Deci o puteți mișca foarte bine,
Foarte
fără absolut nicio
bine, foarte
problemă.
bine. Car roaba cu e, să prășesc, scot apă din fântână cu e.
Am înțeles. Deci puteți efectua activități zilnice aproape ca înainte.
Da, aproape. Eu aș zice că 100% că asta ca stânga.
Cum vă simțiți după acest succes?
Am zis să vă dea Dumnezeu sănătate, dumneavoastră. Mă simt bine. Nu, eu știu, să tăieți. Să vă dea Dumnezeu sănătate, că mă simt super.
Am înțeles.
So, so this was of course in Romanian language, but you can understand much better the feeling of the lady if you can hear her voice. Of course, we could read the English translation, but there's a very important fact. She was saying that she could see the improvement every single day, and she was eager to come back to the therapy. And this is just what we are seeing very often with our patients. So they are eager to come back because they are improving. And very important is also that she improved 12 months after the stroke. This is considered to be in the chronic phase, and normally nothing happens after 6 months after the stroke. And this is also what patients are hearing from their neurologists, that this will be until for the rest of their life, but this is actually not the case, and this is what we see more or less all the time, that they are nicely improving. Now 10 years later, this is how recoveriX looks at the moment. So we have this little avatar in front of the patient now. The patient is instructed to imagine a left hand movement. The brain-computer interface picks it up, and we stimulate the left hand for about 4 seconds. It's another left hand movement, so it's randomized between the left hand and the right hand in order to activate both hemispheres, and this is now the paretic hand. So he imagines the right hand movement, stimulator stimulates, and the hand moves. And you can see in the index finger that the patient still has some spasticity. It's another healthy hand movement. And this is ongoing for 45 minutes. So the patient can fully concentrate on the virtual reality system. It's also getting feedback, which is activating the mirror neurons because he can see the hand movement. Mirror neurons are speaking with the sensory motor cortex, and we are getting more activation of the brain. You can see it's pretty simple, but it's enough for a patient who is ill. You know, very often they are very old, 80, 90 years or even older. So it's cognitively just enough to fully engage in the therapy. And when we are doing 25 therapy sessions, then a stroke patient has to repeat the motor movement imagination 6,000 times. And this is like a child learning to walk again. And this is producing neuroplasticity. So healthy neurons are forming new connections. They are replacing neurons which are damaged by the stroke. And now I have a couple of results. So this was a pretty young lady. She had a stroke when she was 38 years old. and she came 14 months after the stroke into our recoveriX clinical trial. Her right-hand side was affected, and it was so badly affected that she was all the time at home, so she didn't work anymore. She was a hairdresser, but she couldn't do her work anymore because her right hand didn't work correctly, and all the neurologists told her, this will be your status for the rest of your life, so you cannot work again. And then we did 31 training sessions, as you can see here. We are plotting the classification accuracy here. So in session number 1, she achieved 65% classification accuracy. This means we can separate left-hand movement imaginations versus right-hand movements imagination with the EEG data with 65%. So you have to remember, it's a 2-class discrimination problem, and 50% would be chance accuracy. So if the person would just sit there and not attend, we would get 50%. So she was just a little bit better than that, but that she learned pretty quick to control the brain-computer interface very nicely. In session 25, she even achieved 100% accuracy. And this is exactly what we want to have. It's also showing neuroplasticity. And then we have also a marker here, which shows us how well we can find a difference between left and right hand movement. The red vertical line indicates the time point when she got the instruction to start with the motor movement imagination. And then you can see it takes about 3 seconds to find the difference between left and right hand movement. The difference is nice, but it's not very big. And in session 31, at the end of the recoveriX therapy, you can see the difference is much bigger between left and right. And she can also switch on the sensory motor cortex much quicker. So it takes only like 200 milliseconds to find the difference. It's exactly what we want to achieve. And on the bottom, you can see the event-related desynchronization maps that Gerd Pfurtscheller developed. And you can see here the left hemisphere. This is the right hemisphere. And we can see here over the healthy hemisphere that we have some red spots. This means the alpha and the beta oscillations desynchronize during the hand movement imagination, and the sensory motor cortex gets active. And on the paretic side, it's the left hemisphere because her right hand was affected. It's always contralateral. You can see there's much less red color. It's pretty white. This shows the damage of the stroke on the left hemisphere. And interestingly, in session 31, you can see that both hemispheres, the paretic one and the healthy one, show much more event-related desynchronization. This is exactly the neuroplasticity that we want to foster with the recoveriX training. So these are EEG parameters, but we are doing also 18 different functional tests with our stroke patients. And one of these tests is the Vogel-Meyer assessment. That's a standard test that's done in all the rehabilitation centers and hospitals, or at least very often. And there's one test for the upper extremity that we used here. The maximum is 66 points. And you can see she had before recoveriX about 56 points and after recoveriX 62 points. So we have roughly an improvement of 6 points in Vogel-Meyer. This is nice, but it doesn't tell us the full story. For the full story, we need also the 9-hole peg test because it describes much better improvements in fine motoric skills. So here on the left side, which is the healthy side, we can see an improvement from 17 seconds to 14 seconds, improvement of 16%. This is also nice and important for our patients that the healthy side improves, and this is also highly significant. But much more interesting is, of course, the paretic side. You can see here she started with 7 minutes and 26 seconds, and in the post-assessment after recoveriX, she could do the test in 1 minute and 14 seconds. That's an improvement of 603% of fine motoric skills. And this is also something that's really helping you in your daily life. And if you will look now at the speed of improvement, then this is also very nicely indicated by the 9-hole peg test. You can see In the third session, she could do the test already in 3 minutes, 21 seconds. And in session 5, she needed 94 seconds. This means within 5 recoveriX sessions, the fine motoric skills were improving a lot. This means 3.5 hours of training, roughly. And these 3.5 hours of training changed her life completely, because afterwards she could return to her job and she opened her hairdressing studio again. And remember, beforehand everybody told her there will not be any improvement 14 months after the stroke, and we needed 3.5 hours to change it. Then we look also at the Patel index. This is a questionnaire for daily activities. So she had high score, 100% is the maximum. Then she had also some tremor that we measure with the fan tremor scale. And she had also quite a bit of spasticity in the wrist and the hand. So this Ashworth scale measures from 0 to 4. 4 is the maximum, 0 is no spasticity. And the wrist had 1.5 points at the beginning, after recoveriX 0.5. And also in the fingers, the spasticity was reduced. And spasticity actually occurs because the neurons are not controlling the muscle anymore, and the muscle doesn't know what it should do, and it contracts. So Ashworth scale of 4 points would look like that. So the hand would be completely stiff. And with the recoveriX treatment, we see that the spasticity gets less and less. So finally the hand opens, and then the fine and the gross motoric skills are coming back. This is now a video of the 9-hole peg test after the recoveriX training. You can see this test is really difficult for somebody who was basically paralyzed before. So you have to get these little sticks between your fingers, index finger and thumb, and then you have to lift it up, you have to rotate the hand, you have to find the correct position to stick it in. So it's really demanding for somebody who had a stroke. And I like it a lot because it very objectively shows improvement. And this video shows actually the first haircut that the patient was giving to our physiotherapist, Manuela, after the recoveriX training. And watch carefully to the right hand, because this is actually the affected hand. This is now the right hand, and you can see how nicely she can do a haircut after recoveriX. So right after session 31, she was opening her hairdressing studio again. And now she is running the studio for many, many years. And this is exactly what we want to achieve. Beforehand, the social security system was paying her rent, but now she is earning money again. And this is, of course, very important for everybody to work again, be productive, and have a lot of fun. And here we have also an interview of her. Please let me know again if you can hear the video in the chat.
Also erst einmal war der Oberarm komplett taub und die Finger waren, ja, ich möchte nicht sagen steif, aber ich habe es nicht so viel bewegen können wie jetzt. Ja, da einer war ja taub und da vierer, da einer. Nach der 6. hat es angefangen, dass das taube Gefühl vom Oberarm weg gewesen ist, komplett. Und das bei der Hand auch. Ich habe immer gesagt, das ist wieder mehr meine Hand. Also das war zuerst wie so nicht ein Fremdkörper, sondern die hat nichts gemacht. Und jetzt kann ich viele Sachen machen, was gar nicht gegangen sind. Ich bin Friseurin, ich habe am Anfang gar nichts machen können, ich habe einen Föhn nicht holen können, nichts. Das ist immer, das Handgelenk immer so eingefallen. Und jetzt kann ich ja Kopf waschen, wie es gehört, und föhnen auch. Unsere Föhns sind schwer und die kann eine ganze Kundschaft föhnen, 30 Minuten lang, und das Handgelenk ist fest. Ohne dass es runterfällt oder schwach wird, das ist vorher gar nicht gegangen. Ich habe es immer wieder probiert. Ich habe dann den Lebensmut wieder, wenn man sagt, nein, es geht was weiter, und man sieht es und man spürt es selber, dass es besser wird, und die ganze Hand ist schon viel, viel anders jetzt. Nicht ganz wie vorher, aber kommt dann schon ganz neu jetzt. Die Frau Brandstätter zu uns gekommen ist, hat sich vorwiegend eben von der Sensibilität her was noch eingeschränkt, von der rechten Körperhälfte. Das hat es natürlich auch schwieriger gemacht für feinmotorische Greifübungen und Greiftätigkeit im Alltag. Das hat natürlich sie dann auch beruflich eingeschränkt, weil sie ja Friseurin ist. Aber bei ihr haben wir sehr schnell Fortschritte erkennen dürfen. Schon nach 5, 6 Therapieeinheiten ist einfach die Wahrnehmung viel besser geworden. Sie hat feiner greifen können, schneller greifen können und auch unbewusster greifen können. Also sie hat nicht mehr sich so sehr darauf konzentrieren müssen. Und dadurch hat sie natürlich dann auch in ihrem Beruf wieder große Fortschritte gemacht. Nachdem sie ja, wie man merkt, mit ganzer Leidenschaft Friseurin ist, das ist natürlich ein riesen Rückgewinn von Lebensqualität, den sie dadurch gekriegt hat.
You could also hear they are speaking a funny Austrian dialect, and it's also kind of funny to look at the translation that Zoom is making of the Austrian dialect. Completely nonsense. So you got the idea. And this is actually all going back to Dr. Donald Alding Hepp, who found out when an axon of cell A is near enough to excite a cell B and repeatedly or persistently takes part in firing it, some growth process or metabolic change takes place in one or both cells, such as A's efficiency as one of the cells firing B is increased. So if cells fire together, they connect. And this was actually a family doctor from Halifax who developed the principle. And outstanding is actually the name Alding. And I'm going skiing for many, many years with Adam Alding Hepp that you can see here in the picture in Jackson in Wyoming. You can also see David Lama on the picture, who just died a few days after we met him on the ski tour. But by coincidence, I figured out that the Hepp plasticity Hepp has the same first name Alding. Then I was asking Adam if he knows the Hepp's plasticity Hepp, and it was just his uncle by coincidence. I was skiing with his nephew for many, many years. And we are using exactly the Hepp's learning principle for recoveriX for many, many years. And here's another example. This man was 79 years old. He came 4 months after the stroke into the recoveriX therapy. So this is a subacute state, and the stroke affected the right hand. Here you can see the cap for the recoveriX training. He did 25 training sessions because we figured out that actually 25 training sessions are good enough to achieve a statistical improvement for almost everybody. You can see the classification accuracy is around 80%. This is just nice. And then we are mapping also session 1 and session 31 in this case. And we also look at ERD maps. And if we look at the Vogelmeier improvement, then we can see it went up from like 53 points to 58, a couple of points in Vogelmeier. And when we do the 9-hole pack test again, then the left side improved from 36 to 28, also a very nice improvement of the healthy side. On the right-hand side, you can see before recoveriX he needed almost a minute, and afterwards 35 seconds, improvement of 63%. Of course, he was pretty good, so there is not so much improvement possible because his hand function was not so bad. But still, 35 seconds is almost normal. So his healthy hand has 28 seconds. Patel index was at the maximum. He had some tremor, but also here the Ashworth scale, the spasticity decreased in the wrist and in the hand. This is also something that we see highly significant for the patients. And to give you an impression what this Vogelmeier improvement of 5-6 point means, I show you some videos. So on the left-hand side, you can see it before recoveriX treatment. So we were just asking him to lift the hand.
Ganz wurscht, einfach nur so einen Handrücken aufziehen.
On the right-hand side, you can see it after 25 recoveriX sessions.
So weit wie es geht.
So this looks like normal speed, normal hand movement. This is exactly what we want to achieve. Here, we were asking him to touch his nose.
Genau.
You can see the hand movement is not so bad, but it's not completely smooth. It doesn't go high up. And this is actually after the recoveriX. He's able to reach the nose. He can extend the index finger very nicely. It's a smooth movement, looks like normal. This is Kugelmeier improvement of 5-6 points.
Soweit bist du schon wieder dabei.
What we can achieve. Here's also an interview with him.
Aus dem Nichts ist der Schlaganfall gekommen. Ich habe mir einmal gedacht, okay, ich bin schlank gegangen, aber wie es oft geht, dann geht das nicht. Das muss da hängen bleiben. Das war alles. Danach wollte ich dann einmal aufstehen, aber der Fuß nicht mehr da. Das Krankenhaus, da haben sie festgestellt, ein Schlaganfall. Und es war dann der mittlere Finger, wo ich so angekommen bin und dann wieder aufgespannt, weiß es nicht. Aber ich war dann so, ich habe gesagt, über den Schlaganfall kannst du nicht ändern und da habe ich immer geschaut, dass ich positiv bin. Ja, ich kann Bleistift halten können. Und gespielt habe ich es weggerutscht. Aber es ist immer besser geworden. So, dann habe ich mir gefragt, dass es so weit geht, dann habe ich mir gefragt, das gibt es nicht, das ist so weit. Und dann kann man mal bis zum Mond so und da sowas, dann immer besser werden. Also die Hand ist beweglicher geworden, das ist klar, viel Übungen dazu. Was ich gemacht habe, habe ich vorher überhaupt nicht getan. Und Gott sei Dank keine Schmerzen. Freiwillig wieder herkommen bin und das hat wieder funktioniert, das war schöne Erfolge.
Ja, als der Herr Steiner zu uns gekommen ist, hat er schon eigentlich relativ viele Sachen wieder Kinder. Es hat eher Kleinigkeiten, die was eigentlich ausbaufähig waren. Die Feinmotorik, einfach das gezielte Bewegen, auch die Kraftdosierung. Das ist dann eigentlich auch im Laufe der Zeit mit der Therapie immer besser gelungen. Wir haben zum Beispiel den Einmal-Blick-Test. Da war das sich von ungefähr einer Minute auf ungefähr eine halbe Minute verbessert. Gezielter Griffen waren in der Hand. Die Stabal viel besser und viel schneller tragen, viel selbstsicherer. Es ist ungefähr ein halbes Jahr, war jetzt Pause nach Therapieabschluss. Die Verbesserungen, die wir erreichen können haben, die haben wir auch erhalten können, vollständig. Es ist sogar teilweise sogar noch ein bisschen besser. Die betroffene Hand schon wieder gleich gut waren wie die gesunde Hand. Durch das wir auch sehr viel erreichen können.
So there are a couple of very important things that are pinpointed in the video. So first of all, we know already that we can reduce spasticity and then we can improve fine and gross motoric skills of the whole upper arm and of all the fingers. But we have also a lot of good side effects. For example, temperature control normalizes. So these paretic hands are very often a little bit colder, but they feel warm again afterwards. And Josef Stangl also mentioned that he had a lot of pain if somebody was touching his middle finger before the recoveriX treatment, and the pain was completely gone after the recoveriX training. This is also something that we see very often. The chronic pain actually is highly reduced or completely removed. Then we see also better concentration performance, better memory. They can remember words or names much better. We see also better bladder control. They don't have to go so often to the toilet. And all these side effects are actually good. So we don't have any negative side effect because on the brain we are just measuring. And on the hands we are just doing the functional electrical stimulation, which is of course pretty harmless because it's a very small current. So here's another patient, 53-year-old. The stroke affected the right hand side. And he came also in the chronic phase 11 months after the stroke to recoveriX. We did 25 training sessions. You can see he started with like 65%, which is pretty usual. And then he learned it very quickly. Here already he achieved 100% accuracy. And this is also outstanding. Many years ago, we tested motor imagery brain-computer interface systems with many students. and we achieved a certain grand average accuracy. And now our recoveriX persons are actually outperforming all the students because they are so motivated, because they gain motor functions back, and this leads to a lot of motivation of these patients. And you can see here that the patient very often achieved 100% accuracy. Of course, there are some fluctuations, but basically the accuracy is very high. And if you look at the biomarkers again, here's the vertical line. When they get the instruction, we see a small difference at the beginning. It takes about 1.5 seconds to activate the sensory motor cortex. And in session 25, the difference is much bigger, and the sensory motor cortex is activated and after 300 milliseconds. We see also much more activation on the health empathic side, the ERD, and outstanding for this patient is actually the improvement in upper extremity Vogelmeier. You could see before recoveriX, he had like 25 points. This counts as severely impaired because of the stroke. After recoveriX, he had 46 points. So this counts already as moderately impaired, almost mildly impaired. This is exactly what we want to achieve. In this case, his Patel index improved. This means he could do more daily activities himself, like closing a zipper. He had less tremor in the hands, and he had less spasticity in the wrist and in the hand. Exactly what we want to achieve. And here is actually the 9-hole peg test, and this is the most interesting result for him, because here you can see that he couldn't do the 9-hole peg test for 17 sessions at all, because the hand was just not good enough. Vogelmeier scale of 25 points is not much. These patients don't move the fingers anymore. And in session 18, he needed 10 minutes to complete the test. In session 20, he needed 30 minutes, and then you can see how quick it went down to 2 minutes 53 seconds. This is an improvement of 359% in only 7 training sessions. So this means in 5 hours of recoveriX training, the fine motoric skills were coming back. And this is also very interesting because in the first 17 sessions, we didn't get it. So we could only reduce the spasticity, and afterwards the motoric skills were coming back. And this is also the reason why we are doing 25 training sessions. If we would do less, then we wouldn't get an improvement for everybody. And here's a video of recoveriX before again.
Super.
In this case, we were asking him to rotate the hand. You can see he can do almost 90 degrees. And on the right-hand side, it's after recoveriX. And here he is almost doing 180 degrees. This is like a healthy person.
Stopp. Oberkörper bleibt gerade.
And here we were asking him to touch the nose. You can see he can do it.
Oberkörper bleibt
But
gerade. Und wieder oben durch.
the movement is not very smooth.
Genau.
And on the right-hand side, you can see it after recoveriX, much faster. He can fully extend the arm, which was impossible before, and he can easily lift it up all the way to the nose. So this is an improvement of 21 points in Vogelmeier. We have also an interview with him.
Also ich bin die Vertraute von Klaus. Wir haben eine sehr enge Beziehung zueinander und das ist auch der Grund, ich bin jetzt sozusagen der Mensch, der ihm am nächsten steht. Im Jänner 2016 ist ganz überraschend ein schwerer Schlaganfall eingetreten und zu Beginn hat er sich in keinster Weise artikulieren können. Der Klaus war Zeit seines Lebens immer ein sehr witziger, sehr gescheiter Mann, der sehr viel gewusst hat und der sehr pointierte Gespräche geführt hat und ein sehr warmherziger, liebevoller, wertvoller Mensch. Und in dieser Phase, nach dem Schlaganfall, also da ist praktisch nichts mehr übermittelt. Also das war für mich wirklich eine weit größere Schwierigkeit als die Tatsache, dass der rechte Arm praktisch nicht zu gebrauchen ist. Zu Beginn ist er wirklich praktisch mit gelähmtem Arm, wo er den gesamten Arm als Ganzes aus der Schulter heraus so ein bisschen in die Höhe heben hat können, bis jetzt. Also das ist wirklich das beste Beispiel für das, was in dieser Zeit passiert ist. Ich habe mich gleich von vornherein sehr sehr gut aufgehoben gefühlt, auch als Angehörige. Ich kann das auch nur von Klaus sagen, also der war von vornherein begeistert. Ja. Dieses Spielerische ihn auch immer angetrieben hat. Also sein Ehrgeiz angestachelt hat und das hat ihn auch unheimlich motiviert. Er wird wieder zum Klaus, wie er vorher war, und das ist sehr, sehr tröstlich für mich.
Er hat keinen vollständigen Ausschluss machen können. Generell die Bewegung in der Hand war bei der ersten Untersuchung nicht so gegeben. Das hat sich durch die Therapie deutlich verbessert. Wir haben dann auch mit dem 9-Hole-Pack-Test gemessen. Das ist die ersten 18 Therapien, ist das gar nicht möglich gewesen, eben weil die gezielte Kraft, dass man was hält und vor allem so was Feines hält, war nicht da. Und das hat sich dann so weit verbessert, dass er von gar nicht möglich, dass er flott geworden ist. Zum Schluss hat er um die 2,5 Minuten lang gebraucht mit der betroffenen Seite. Er war wahnsinnig begabt, was die Bewegungsvorstellung betrifft, hat er immer fast 100% gehabt. Das heißt, er hat sich 100% der Bewegungen sich vorstellen können, was wirklich eine Wahnsinnsleistung ist.
Also here, it was very nice. And this patient here, 56 years old, 3 years after the stroke, is also outstanding because she achieved a grand average accuracy of 99%. So her concentration was just perfect, and I've never seen such a high accuracy with any healthy person before. So she was just super motivated to get it done. And here you can see that altogether we are doing 29 different assessments with our patients. So first one is, for example, the Patel index for daily activities. The second one is the Van Tremor scale for the paretic hand, the tremor for the healthy hand, the spasticity for the wrist, the spasticity for the fingers, and so on. So we have a pretty good overview to describe objectively what's improving. And here you can see, for example, the 9-hole pack test, like it is going down from session to session. This is exactly what we want to achieve for self-mobility, increased, for example, from session to session. And with that, we can very nicely describe what's happening. Besides that, we are doing also mind-beagle assessments with our stroke patients to get biomarkers. So we are running auditory evoke potentials. You can see the patient had 100% in all the sessions, which shows that the auditory network is just working nicely. Then we did vibrotactile stimulation of the left hand and of the right hand. Also here we have 100% accuracy, and we know that sensation and tactile evoke potentials are normally registered. And this is very useful to develop biomarkers which describe how healthy the brain is. And Sebastian is going to give a lecture about these data sets a little bit later. And here it's interesting to look also at video recordings. So pre-2 is the 9-hole pack test before recoveriX. Play the video. So you can see how difficult it is for her to get the little sticks. They're really tiny, made of metal, so they have a very smooth surface. This is post-1. This means after recoveriX. Looks already much better. She already had done the first pack. She's not cheating, so she put with the healthy hand the pack back. And post-3 is actually 6 months after the recoveriX treatment has ended. Normally we see that patients are improving after recoveriX had ended still, because then the brain is healthier, and then they are starting to use upper and lower limbs more in daily life. This makes the hand movements and leg movements actually better. You can just see how much better 6 months after the recoveriX treatment she is. So she is actually pretty quick with this really difficult task. Just as a reminder, This was before recoveriX on the left-hand side. So you can just see it was almost impossible to get it done. Very nice improvement, and somebody should not forget effective training time is 18 hours. So 18 hours of exercise can actually change your life pretty dramatically.
So klamm, das Ding.
And of course, all these patients are doing other therapies in their regular life. So she came 3 years after the stroke. And of course, she did physiotherapy, occupational therapy, exercise training, all other stuff which is available. But this didn't change anything. And then on top, there was recoveriX, and it changed. So 18 hours is, in my opinion, immediately. That's another patient, 54 years old, left-hand side affected, 30 years after the stroke. Many people ask us, how long does it work? So there's no limit. We had patients 1 year after, 10, 20, or 30 years. And here you can see the classification accuracy in her case was on average 71%. Still okay. In session 1, you can see we almost don't find a difference between left and right. Very nice difference in session 25. Shows again brain plasticity. And then it's also very interesting to look at the 9-hole peg test. You can see she was really motivated, and she needed more than 1 hour to complete it in session number 1. Also in session 21, she still needed 1 hour, but after recoveriX, she could do it in 17 minutes, which is still a very long time for doing the test, but she could do it. In post 2, this is 1 month later, she needed 16 minutes, and 6 months later, she needed only 5 minutes. So she started with 1 hour. 6 months later, it was 5 minutes. So a very nice improvement in fine motoric skills. Then we can also see Patel index daily activities improved. Tremor was reduced, spasticity was reduced, box and block test was better, and also sensitivity was improved. And this is how we measure tremor. So the patient actually has to draw the line in this spiral. It's the left hand. You can see it's a little bit fuzzy. This is the healthy hand. Looks much smoother. And this is even more difficult if it's smaller. So you can see the patient is touching the black border a couple of times. This is the healthy hand. And then you also have to draw a straight line. This is the paretic hand, this is the healthy hand. And after the treatment, you can see the movement is just much better. In all the cases for the circular movements, but also for the straight line. And this is the clinical assessment report over 6 months, which is super interesting. So here you can see for upper extremity before recoveriX training the results. So the total upper extremity Vogelmeier is 17 points. This means severely impaired. After recoveriX, it's 28 points, improvement of 11 points, which is really nice after 18 hours of training. But this is super interesting. 1 month later, it's 35. 6 months later, it's 37. Maximum is 66, just to remind you. So this corresponds to the moderately impaired person, and the total improvement is 20 points. So just very nice. Sensibility improved also. Beforehand, it was 10. At the end, it was the maximum. Passive joint movements, so this means the therapist is moving the joints. Beforehand, it was only 19 points. 6 months later, 22 points. Maximum is 24. And also pain. She had pain before 21. Maximum is 24, and you can see it got better and better. 6 months later, she was almost pain-free. This is what we very often see. I skipped the video report because we already reached almost 10 o'clock. And I will continue with the presentation after Mark Sebastian did the live demo. So I invite him now to the panel. Mark, please come online. And in the meantime, while Mark is preparing, I look at the Q&A. Braha is asking, we're saying good morning, greetings and regards from Kosovo. Very nice to have Kosovo in spring school. Then somebody's asking if we sponsor art projects. We do it very often to work together with artists. Please send me an email I put it into the Q&A to discuss. Then Jan is asking, after rehabilitation, when so much control is restored, does it further promote recovery? Yeah, after the 25 recoveriX sessions, the brain is healthier. And then people start to move their limbs more in daily life. So this is training the muscles. And 6 months later, they're better again. So they walk faster, they walk longer. They can do more activities with the upper limbs, with the hands, with the arms. And this is exactly what we want.